Hey everyone, it's Tantum. We're at the Funkhaus and today I'm gonna show you how I made my track Geschwindigkeitslauf. Geschwindigkeitslauf means speedrun in German, so let's speed into the studio. Oh, you're in here already. Would you like to experience a Glühwein maybe? Here, have a sip. And follow me. So I want to quickly take you through the project, through some of the different versions of the project I've had. And I want to compare those, see what changed and why. And yeah, I'd say let's jump right in. Alright, so here we have the original project file. In this track particular, I resampled a lot of sounds. This is something I like doing. I think it helps me maintain a signature sound. I will just quickly go through those sounds. This was an old hat I made at some point. I had to edit the kick out. Same here, I like the snappy part of the kick and the hi-hats that are playing. Snare, hi-hat, shaker. Nothing too fancy. Regular old kick with some processing on it. And that's pretty much the drum bass. I have some processing going on here. One of Acoustica's plugins. This one is coloring the sound a lot, which I like. That's why I used it. For this one, a more kind of raw, in-your-face sound, it worked perfectly. So for melodics, we have mostly recordings actually from the modular, except for this analog here. So this is just very simple sound design where I've modulated a random modulation to the detune, which gives it that squelchy kind of quality. And throughout the arrangement, the filter is opening up, which makes it like squawk a bit. Using lots of Ableton stock stuff on here. Keeping it simple on the sound design from the synth. The magic comes from the effects on this one. I have a bunch of videos on my channel going into detail on stuff like this, so if you're interested, go check it out. Here we have a kind of atmospheric, warbling kind of sound I made on the modular. Yeah, this is just for background ambience. Unlike this one, which I really liked using, and that's the sound I made on the modular. But it's basically just playing with the rate of an oscillator and the pitch, and it gives you this kind of whale calling kind of experimental sound. Another sound I have in there are those two stabs here, and one is just a Ableton drum synth FM. And another one of my resampled sounds you can see from the very original file name. And of course, the most important part, the main modular bassline, which is being supported by two sounds, one from drum synth again and one from a diva, and the modular sound itself. Let's turn off the effects and see what it sounds like. Well, not so spectacular without effects. The effects help the sound sit in the right space. I did some side chaining to the kick, gave it some reverb, some echo, and then in the end I brought the sound down by quite a bunch of decibels, which is also something I want to mention. When you see sounds clipping here, some plugins can't handle this. And they will introduce distortion or coloring. If somewhere in the plugin chain you have a plugin that affects the sound differently depending on the volume that's going in, which is an information you would find in the manual, then it does make a difference. Last but not least, we have a bunch of effects, also a lot of sounds that I've recycled just to glue everything together, to transition from one part in the other. It's always handy to have effects. So yeah, this is pretty much all we are working with, and I'd say let's dive into some more detail. And also I want to give you an overview of some of the track's versions I've had and what changed in between, why. Hopefully you can take some learnings out of that. So let's dive right in. So the first version is pretty much just a drum groove with a couple of bass shots, nothing too fancy. On top of this version, I wrote the modular main kind of bass line. But then I had to make this modular sound a bit more upfront and integrate it into the mix, so that's what I did in version 3. you can hear it's way louder. The whole track now has a theme to it. Before it was just a groove. But you can still see the kick drum bass level and the one-shot bass level varies a lot. So the mix is still not ideal. And during the arrangement of the track, there was kind of a drop in energy back here. And to transition between those two phases, I did a modular sound effect and a new element that plays as kind of a B part. So for one section you have the main bass line in the focus, and then we have another synth. And so this is the final version. All elements pop out nicely. And in the final master, the dynamics have been brought up to a playable level, and it sounds super tight. I love it. So let's try and focus on the mix for a bit. When making a track, it's important to have everything in balance, and that's basically what you're doing when you're mixing. And I like to think of mixing as something space-related. And what I mean by that is, in real life, if a sound source is close to you, it will be very loud. If it's far away, it's quieter. So that's one dimension. You have the volume. So what are the tools in our toolbox to work on a mix? It's, for one, volume, just a regular volume fader, or EQ, which is volume on specific frequencies. We have panning, also reverb and delay to give the illusion of space. So if a sound is far back, it should have more reverb and be quieter, versus a sound in the front might be louder and have less notable reverb to it. And then it's really just about gaining the experience from having mixed so much that you kind of have a feel for what sounds right and what fits to each other and what doesn't. And that's the way how I approach my mixes. I usually try to make everything sound in one realistic dimension. Unless sometimes it can be nice to bring it up front, which is something I've done with that modular whale animal kind of sound. So that was it. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in sounds like this, you should also check out Sennheiser. I was honored to do a sample pack for them. It's called Vision, so go check it out. And yeah, I'm really, really thankful for all the support I've seen, especially in the last few weeks, months. And I'm looking forward to create more music, more content, also on YouTube and my social media. I'll see you there. Cheers.